Hey, hello. You know what? I talked about worker rights in Canada in 4 previous videos, an overview, and then in-depth videos on the right to refuse unsafe or dangerous work, the right to know the hazards in your workplace, and of course, just recently, the right to participate. Now, what I'd like to talk about is the responsibilities that go along with those rights. Let's put 7 minutes down on the clock and we'll get started. And we'll get started right now. This is my observation. I've noticed with a lot of the rights that were granted through legislation, with each of those rights or with these rights come responsibilities. I don't know if other people have noticed, and if I'm wrong, well, you know what? Leave a comment. But what I found is with the rights that were granted through legislation, there's usually responsibilities to go along with them. And a lot of times these responsibilities closely parallel the rights. So knowing that you have the right to refuse unsafe or dangerous work, the right to know about the hazards in your workplace, and the right to participate, let's look at the responsibilities that parallel these. Now, first off, you're granted the right to the knowledge of the hazards in your workplace and the right to the governing legislation as well. In fact, in all jurisdictions in Canada, each one of them states that it's a requirement to have, each worker has to have access to the legislation in the workplace. So with that, and with the fact that you have this knowledge, you've gained this knowledge through your rights, you now have the responsibility to, one, work in compliance with all OHS legislation and, of course, the derivative regulations, code, and so forth beyond that. You also have to use the personal protective and equipment in clothing as directed by the employer. If the employer provides personal protective equipment and other safety mechanisms for you to use, then you have to use them. Not only that, part of that knowledge that you gained is with the job hazard assessments, the safe work procedures, and the safe work guides that the employers provided. It's up to you to read them. Okay, they're there. You have the right to know, but you have the right to take in that knowledge. So that means that once you've taken in that knowledge, you've read the guides, read the hazard assessments, looked at the controls, you now are compelled and you're responsible to work in a safe manner as required by the employer and use any of the prescribed safety equipment and procedures the employer has put in place for you. Next, you have the right to participate. Okay, we talked about that in the last video I did, and I'll leave some links at the end of the video. You'll be able to find them on either side. You have the right to participate, and that means you also have the responsibility to protect your own health and safety, look after your own health and safety, and that health and safety of others. You also have the responsibility to participate in any of the prescribed health and safety activities, the safe work activities, and that includes training. A lot of times I see that people are anxious to take new training, but for as many people that are anxious to take new training, there are those that try to avoid it. If your employer has put training in place for you for your own personal safety, then you have the responsibility to take it. Comes to the last one, and as I've said before, none of these rights are in any particular order, but when you have the right to refuse unsafe or dangerous work, you also have some responsibilities that go along with it. Number one is you're responsible for reporting any hazardous situation or danger or thing that may cause a hazard or danger to any worker, yourself, or others. And so that means that you have to report workplace hazards to your supervisor or who's acting on behalf of your employer, or just directly to your employer. You also have the responsibility to tell your employer about any missing or defective parts for equipment or any kind of safeguards that are in place and that they may be missing. Reporting is a requirement. Now, there's another piece here that I want to address. This piece of legislation that's present in every single jurisdiction also requires that you may have to be, how should I put this? You may have to tell on another worker.
What a rat!
Yeah, that's right. You might have to be a rat. But consider this. If you know that a worker is working unsafely or in such a manner that's going to endanger themselves or another, then, and something does occur, wouldn't you feel worse about it? You should. So that should prompt you and compel you to either address it with the worker themselves, and if the worker doesn't want to change, then go to your supervisor. I know it's a terrible thing, and I know it can cause some hurt feelings, but you also have that inherent responsibility to address any unsafe situation in the workplace. And that includes a fellow coworker. Just to close it all off here, and you know what? Hey, I think that we've made it for a change. But you have rights, but you also have responsibilities. You have the responsibility to work in a safe manner, and that includes following the processes that have been outlined by your employer. You have to participate in any of the safe work processes, and that includes reading the material that you've been given and taking any training you've been provided. Also, you're responsible to bring to the attention of your employer any unsafe situation that may be present in your workplace. And what I mean by that is a situation where there's uncontrolled hazards or an inherent danger to others that proves to be an unsafe situation. We got to the end. Thank you very much for watching. Do me a favor. If you like the video, click that like button. Because when you do it, it boosts the video up, and then other people that haven't seen it get the opportunity to know about their rights and responsibilities as workers in the workplace. If you're new to the channel and you haven't done so already, why don't you click that subscribe button? When you ding the bell, you get notified of new content. Also, do me a favor. When you're at work or when you're at home, think safety, talk safety, do safety. That way we provoke it at home and in the workplace. Take care. Bye for now.